Hey, everybody. It's your host, Marlon Gardenera. You're listening to the Divided States of America show. Today's show is about something new and exciting in politics. And of course, we'll go over a little controversy. But let's get started.
Welcome to the Divided States of America show, where your host, Marlon Gardenera, takes on the most divisive issues in our divided nation. We'll sort through the best and worst of politics and culture, asking questions and looking for answers that our two-ring, two-party circus has failed to provide. And here is your host, Marlon Gardenera.
Appreciate you. You already know we're here weekdays, noon Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern, Facebook Live, YouTube Live, and Twitter. I repeat it so that you can remind others that that's when we are here. If you don't catch the show live, you can always go on any of those three and watch the replay at a time that works better for you. I appreciate the fact that some of you are doing that, and I appreciate the fact that some of you are sharing with friends and family that we're here. We will work to grow this show in the days to come, and our goal, again, is to take on divisive issues in our divided nation and to have respectful, thoughtful conversations about it. This is not a one-sided show where the intention is to tell you how stupid the other side is. In fact, what I would prefer to have is the other side of whatever the issue is, or both sides of whatever the issue is, or maybe as we move forward, all three sides of an issue as there's a new party coming online. But the goal is to have those discussions. It's to explore how we got where we are and discuss how we get back to a we the people society where the 80% of the people that I believe are in the middle, the large percentage of Americans who I think are more moderate than our parties are, or how they're portrayed in the media. Where are you? Where are we? Because I know while I may be slightly left of center for very specific reasons, I am a former conservative talk radio host, a former Reagan Republican that would really prefer to just be a centrist. I'd prefer to look at every issue based on the issue, not based on what one party or another thinks. And until we do a better job of that, we're failing. And neither party is getting the all or nothing equation they're hoping for. And my wish is that they all got nothing if they couldn't figure out a way to work together and compromise and just be better, really. Just be better people, be more respectful, be more thoughtful. And again, I think I said this yesterday, and I'll probably keep saying it. Every single day I go on social media, the things that politicians are saying about the other side, if my children were on social media talking like that, I don't care if they're 18 or 38, they'd hear it. They'd hear that they were taught better. They would hear that, respect is more important than what I think or sometimes feel is people getting their rocks off, knowing that the other person isn't there to respond, knowing that they're never going to have thoughtful conversations, and even worse, being confident that they're going to get their job back wherever they're serving, whatever office they're in, being confident that doing that in particular is going to help them maintain the power and keep their office. It's sad. It's really sad. But before we get to the new party, which quite frankly is exciting to me, lots of details need to be worked out, but we'll dig into who they say they are, at least early on. There is news. It is divisive. I'm sure left and right will take on different angles in the argument, but I've got some questions. This side, it's about the left. It's about the leader of the left, the Speaker of the House, the second in line after the vice president to take on the presidency. If something were to happen to the people ahead of her, you already know she's in Taiwan. And while that might not normally be a big deal in your eyes, if you don't know the history, China believes that the island of Taiwan, just east of it, is their territory. And they've been rumbling about the potential to enforce their beliefs, the one China policy. I'm sure they're watching intently on how the world is defending Ukraine, because Russia also is trying to take on land that, at least based on the rest of the world, how we recognize countries, is not theirs. So I'm sure China is studying the response of America and all of the other countries involved in providing weapons to Ukraine and support to Ukraine, money to Ukraine, to see what would the world do if it enforced its one China policy on Taiwan. But What is new is that we haven't had a leader at this level of the U.S. government, in the U.S. government, there in 25 years. Newt Gingrich was in Taiwan back in 1997. And let me tell you, the rhetoric is big. It's huge. But let's get a little background on what happened.
Destroyers open fire. Missiles launch. Warships shoot into the sea. It's a show of force ahead of China's military anniversary, training for war in the East China and Yellow Seas. Soldiers also recently ran drills around Pingtan Island, China's closest point to Taiwan, just over 77 miles away, renewing fears of a cross-strait crisis, triggered by House Speaker Nancy Pelosi's possible trip to the island. She's already in Asia and released an itinerary with no mention of Taiwan. But Taiwanese and U.S. officials have told CNN she's expected to visit Taiwan this week and stay overnight. In a call with President Joe Biden last week, Chinese leader Xi Jinping warned those who play with fire will perish by it. A prominent hawkish voice in China even suggested that if U.S. fighter jets escort Pelosi's plane into Taiwan, China's military should forcibly dispel Pelosi's plane. If ineffective, then shoot them down. The tweet has now been banned. He doesn't represent the official government stance, but state media has been promoting his threat. It's not just that Pelosi would be the most powerful U.S. official to visit in 25 years, but Beijing also sees her as a hostile figure. She's been a staunch critic of China for decades. In 1991, 2 years after China's military brutally cracked down on student protesters around Tiananmen Square, Pelosi traveled there and held a banner that read, "To those who died for democracy in China." U.S. President Joe Biden has raised concerns over Pelosi's trip.
The military thinks it's not a good idea right now.
This Chinese state media video says Pelosi is only going to Taiwan to boost her political career, and that America's fragmented government cannot agree on what to do about Taiwan. Neither side can afford to look weak. If Pelosi doesn't go, it could look like the U.S. is caving to China's bullying. Whereas Xi Jinping is just months away from a key political meeting where he's expected to seek an unprecedented third term.
Given the overreaching that Xi Jinping has been doing, I don't believe we can count on his good judgment.
For now, he's keeping the world guessing as to whether the threats are just bluffing, or if Beijing is actually ready for a crisis that could escalate into a war that no one wants. Selena Wang, CNN, Beijing.
Listen, my question is pretty simple. Why? Why, in the middle of us being in Ukraine and trying to support them, we don't have soldiers there, but trying to support them, us dealing with the political issues that we're dealing with here, why now? What is the critical importance? Because there's another reality. She's already there. This is Nancy Pelosi getting off the airplane earlier this morning in Taiwan. Why? Is it purely to project power? What power? Literally, what power? What power do you have to get things done in America with the Senate and the House being divided? How many things are happening that Americans need to happen today? Now, I'm not suggesting that anyone in Congress can't take trips, can't get more informed, can't stand behind anything that they believe is important. And in Nancy Pelosi's mind, there's a very, very important reason to be there. I'm just questioning why now. And, hopefully it can all work out and she gets to project the power she wants. I can't imagine that China's not going to want to project its own power. But the projection of power seems silly to me. You have it or you don't. You use it when you think it's necessary or you don't. It's the games, the gamesmanship, the brinksmanship, the we are stronger. Are we when it comes down to getting things done is probably the question that I would be most curious about. It would be the answer I'm looking for. But, in all fairness, Pelosi had, she put something out in the Washington Post today, I believe when she landed. It said, and this is from Nancy Pelosi, "In the face of the Chinese Communist Party's accelerating aggression, our congressional delegation's visit should be seen as an unequivocal statement that America stands with Taiwan, our democratic partner, as it defends itself and its freedom," Pelosi wrote. I'll say again, we've got some freedoms here in America that I think people would like to see you fighting for. Not to say you can't do two things at one time, but the symbolism or the projection of power in this one, I don't necessarily understand it. I don't understand the importance of it and the timing of it today. Now, the Chinese government said that she was trying to increase her political power. She's the Speaker of the House. I don't believe she intends to run for president. I don't know that she intends to run for the Senate in California. I'm not sure where she would still go to utilize more power, or that this even gives her more power, because the odd reality is that there may be a price that we have to pay as a result of it. We already know that the Chinese have said a number of things. Really, they've said a number of things. There's Pelosi's statement, but the Chinese government, they flew some warplanes in the Taiwan Strait. Again, a projection of power. I don't know that is really the most concerning thing in the world. But we know Beijing is enraged, and while it's not our priority how they feel about things, we do so many things with China. We act as if we take these positions, but we don't want the container filled with goods that we're going to buy to be filled with goods and get shipped over to America. As a matter of fact, we talk about the impact of the supply chain. We talk about inflation. We talk about the lack of products that we have to produce and manufacture things. It's so intertwined that the flexing and the, again, the projection of power is cute. We still want their goods. They still want to make them and send them over here. What is all of this going to have to do with any of that? There are things that they make that we need that we don't produce like we used to. We know there's been a recent investment in chip manufacturing in America because we relied so heavily on overseas work. And when that production wasn't happening at the rate we wanted, whether it be from labor issues and COVID, or if it ever becomes an issue in a controversy or a conflict like this, there are certain things that we have become too reliant on China for. So we're investing in America to make it happen. That's a side issue. We're sometimes complaining about investing in our people, but investing in products that down the line can help our people, there's a different attitude and approach when people can make money from the transactions. But in this particular case, we know Beijing insists that self-ruled Taiwan is a part of their country. I'll be curious to see what happens. Will it worsen U.S.-China relations? Keep in mind, those relations in part have a lot to do with the fact that they need our products. They want to make products and services for us. So I don't know if it's going to go that far. I don't know that they're going to let it affect their economy. They need that same economy to build up their military. I don't know if their vibrance and their economy is worth this particular conflict, this display of power and this display of support for Taiwan. I don't know if this will accelerate China and their aggression towards Taiwan. There have been some stark warnings to Americans. If you play with fire, you essentially go down by fire. Come on. What are you going to burn America? Let's be real. But cyber attacks could be real. Seizing more intellectual property that is used in China, that's real. Things that they've already done, things that we already know exist. Could this provoke an earlier attack on Taiwan? Could this provoke an earlier limited attack on Taiwan? The U.S. is committed to defending and being there for the Taiwanese government. How committed are we is probably the real question. And will we have to prove our commitment to them like we've been questioned in Ukraine? Are we doing enough there? Will we be in position and will we be ready to do enough in China should that go further? So it's just a political question of why now? Why add to the fires that we already have burning and the problems that we don't have solved? Not to say that politicians and the Speaker of the House can't do multiple things, but I think we'd all like to see more things happen here in America related to our issues and our problems than be worried about the Taiwanese government. Not suggesting they can't do anything else, just suggesting results here would be much better for everyone's political career and more importantly for Americans. Just a thought that comes to mind. But you have to put all of this, literally all of this, into context. The context is there may be a new political party. And I feel like I'm about to be a hack for the new party. I'm not signed up. I'm not signed on. I did sign up to get some information. I do want to know more about where it's going. I do want to know more about its motivation and what it could look like and what the impact could be on America. But I got to tell you, I'm just excited. I'm excited because every day I come on here and I talk about the divided states of America and the divisive issues. And I also mention how our leadership has helped drive that divide and how social media displays the disgusting, childish petulant behavior that they, and the insults that they hurl back and forth, and the silliness of adults thinking that there's going to be any progress doing that. And then you come to the realization that really their goal is to establish their base and to get them excited and get them behind them. And I still don't understand how other adults even get behind that. I understand different belief systems, but the method in which we're trying to go about making progress in any one direction, it's quite frankly silly. Unfortunately, it seems to work. The worse the rhetoric, the bigger the lie, the more the emotion. Somehow it seems to work. But I know most Americans aren't caught up in that. We're not that gullible. We're not that willing to just go down a path and ignore everything else. Now, if we are just watching the news and just take what they give us, and particularly depending on what stations we watch or what channels we listen to or what podcast or what radio shows, to some degree, because people don't have the ability to dig in and research, or even the time and interest in digging in and researching things, they go along with the people that they want to believe. And then they start taking on beliefs that we already know aren't true. We know the big lie is a lie. The election was not stolen. We know government is not the best solution for every problem. So when the left talks about we need to do this and we need to do that, we already understand their qualifications. We already can see cities that have been run by Democrats for so long that you would think they would be a model of all of the things they say we want. They're not. California, I remember Pete Wilson being our senator. I remember Reagan coming out of California. I remember California looking different. Now there's a supermajority in our House and our Senate. We have a governor in Sacramento, but it doesn't mean California is a bastion of perfection. There are issues. There are concerns. The gas tax, how much we pay on top of the price of gas right now, and the fact that they had to argue back and forth whether or not there should have been a reduction in our gas tax, a temporary one. Well, maybe the problem was they would have to do the reduction, but then they'd have to put it back. And when they put it back, it's not politically, ideal, and the midterm elections are coming up. So they talked about a rebate check to everybody, which sort of seems silly to me. The people that drive for a living would be better off getting a gas tax. They're the ones actually paying for the tax. The people who just own cars but work from home, or people who own cars and they rarely leave their neighborhood, they're not the ones being the most impacted by the increase in gas prices. It's the trucker. It's the repair guy that goes from house to house. It's the people who are actually utilizing more gas that are paying the tax. But our government wasn't willing to listen to that in California. So having said that, the election wasn't stolen, folks, and having supermajorities and a Democratic governor in a state doesn't mean that state's without issues. The only thing you have to worry about is that state, or are the regions in the country without the discussion of the best ways to make these things work? Would a reduction in the gas tax have been better? There didn't need to be a thoughtful, respectful discussion in California. The Democrats hold the power. If the media was talking more about how to build confidence in future elections and working harder to contradict the lie, because it's a lie, and a lie is news. It's news every time somebody in somebody else's region or area says it. We want to know that they're lying. But the system doesn't work that way. It's not designed to work that way. It's designed in the tribes. It's designed to make your tribe better than the other. It's designed to insult and humiliate the other tribe. It's designed to make you feel good about the power structure in which you think you sit because you're on one side or the other. And what it does is it alienates a good portion of Americans. And it makes people identify with a party, even if they identify with 3/4 of it or 2/3 of it, or maybe half of the things that are happening in the party. And what it makes it more difficult to do is be a moderate, be someone that understands and respects that there are other opinions and that they can't just ignore them like they don't matter. Well, again, with a little excitement and emotion, I am not a card-carrying member. I am someone very, very interested, because the words that they're saying, if I were rewriting the show and I were trying to describe to you what was important to me, I would be repeating many of the things that they're saying. I can't latch on. I can't claim it as my party. I can't join leadership today, although I'm curious about how all of that is going to be formed. I'm curious if this thing can survive, but the new Forward Party is interesting to me. It is incredibly interesting. It's incredibly interesting because it seems to me that they're trying to appeal to moderates on both sides of the aisle, and they're not even asking you to change your ideology. Not sure completely how that works, but I know they're trying. They're trying. the symbols, the logos, the looks, the presence on Facebook, the presence on Twitter, the presence on the media since last Thursday has been endless. Their claim is they've reached 40 million Americans using the different channels that they've gone out on trying to describe what they've got going. I know they're raising money and they're getting people to sign up and they're piquing interest. My real curiosity will be, how does this thing work out long term? Is there something there? Third parties often serve as a challenge to the existing power structure. I remember when Ross Perot, you're going to let me talk? You're going to let me talk? Can I finish? Can I finish? I love Saturday Night Live's rendition of him. But their fear was that he was taking away from Republican votes from his more moderate position, more practical, business-minded position. And there's fear that he actually cost Republicans the election because he did take a percentage of the votes from George Bush at the time. And there's already fear about this party and the impact it could have. And right now, the prognosticators are thinking that the impact is going to be on the Democratic Party. But before we get there, matter of fact, I'd like to talk about the opposition to the new party more so maybe tomorrow. But today, let's hear from the new party. What do they think? What are they saying? And I got to tell you, the first rendition of it wasn't Andrew Chang's best version, but Andrew Chang, Governor Whitman, former governor from New Jersey, and another moderate and another congressional leader are the leaders of this particular party. Let me give you Andrew Yang's 1-minute excerpt as to what he thinks this is about.
Hey everyone, I know you heard about Andrew Yang and the Forward Party, and I'm here to tell you actually what it is. It's probably not what you've heard. What we're going to do is actually solve the problems that are literally driving us crazy. What am I talking about? The Forward Party has some very straightforward tenets. Number one, open primaries and ranked choice voting so that you actually can have political dynamism and different points of view. We changed the primary system from the closed party primaries to open primaries and ranked choice voting. This would immediately make our political figures more rational because they'd have to cater to 51% of us rather than the most extreme 20% on either side. One state has already done this, Alaska, and there are 24 other states where you can do this with ballot initiatives. Universal basic income, human-centered economy, fact-based governance, modern and effective government, systems that actually work, but also grace and tolerance. We're not out to demonize or villainize anyone. We love our fellow Americans. What we have a problem with is a system that's going to turn us against each other.
Well, there's the quick version. He's got longer versions. And if you're looking for it, Andrew Chang interviews since last Thursday have been endless. He's everywhere. There are other people touting the benefits of this new party. I encourage you to go look into it yourself if you identify as a moderate. If the rancor and rhetoric from both parties is discouraging to you, if you're in one party but there are a couple of issues that you just can't do it. You just, if you're a Republican but the abortion issue is just driving you crazy. If you're a Democrat but the far left and the harder transition with climate change or the insistence that the government is the solution to our problems, it just doesn't truly align with where you are. And you almost feel like there is no place for you in either party. And I'll be honest, I left the Republican Party because I didn't feel like there was a place. And I did it earlier. I did it when George Bush didn't realize that the housing bubble was going to occur. When it appeared to me that, again, making money in a thriving economy was more important than any particular reality that could result from it. And there was enough warnings. There was enough warnings from investors betting against it. There were enough warnings in a lot of ways to be more concerned about the thriving economy and how that played for you politically. Again, so much of our problems are what the benefit is to our politicians. And if the benefit isn't surveyed or measured in terms of all Americans and just the ones that keep them in power, the benefit isn't a true representation of how it's going to impact us all. And sometimes they gauge the benefit for their party and, like the housing bubble, don't realize their party and everybody else is going to be affected by the things we do or don't do, by the precautions we take or don't take, by the regulation, deregulation, involvement, the discussions, the things that are happening. When you look at them from one perspective, there's still the possibility, and we've seen it, that everybody is going to be hurt by it. And as much as I'd like to think we could do better, that you could have a one-party perspective, but have that party, knowingly benefit everybody else, those are wins, and they just don't happen enough. They just don't happen enough. I think healthcare was a win. Anytime we get a chance to give more people healthcare, I think that's a win. The cost and the details, I think that, we'd have been better off if there was a discussion about that instead of a party power structure and voting against it for years. And the Republicans getting into office, having control of the House, Senate, and the White House, and still not even being able to get through it and make a difference. But that's the fractured nature of American politics. So the idea of a third party to me is only exciting because I'd like it not to be with the two parties that exist. I'd like there to be a middle ground that they have to roll things by to get a majority to push anything through. I'd like moderates to be part of every discussion. And Andrew Chang said it. The way we do the closed primaries, Republicans vote for Republicans, Democrats vote for Democrats, independents, sometimes they don't have anybody to vote for. If it's so closed that an independent can't reach into either side, which is oftentimes the case, you really just have to get to the extreme people in your party who you know are going to show up to the polls and vote. And the people that are more apathetic and more interested in going to work that day than waiting in a line at a voting place, at a polling place, the ones that are the most fervent are going to show up. So you in those closed primaries can really try to relate to them. We'll get into ranked choice voting on another show. We'll talk about the details of it. We'll talk about the benefits. We'll talk about the concerns that people have about ranked choice voting. But like he said, you would have to, if you want to be put in the ranking high enough, you'll have to appeal to more people than just that small extreme part of your party. That would be great for America. It would be fantastic for America. Now, I'm saying that knowing that there's some gaming or gamesmanship in the ranked choice voting too, but it would be fantastic if all politicians had to reach out to more Americans. And right now, that divide in two parties, I keep calling it the two-ring, two-party circus. It's not what's best for America. The progress that we make and the contentious relationship that we have with one another is the only example you need to know that form of leadership isn't working. And the fact that people still have their goals to have all and be willing to get nothing is also silly to me. It's a bad equation. And again, I've been honest. I hope you get nothing before you try to really get it all. And I understand the two polar opposites sometimes can find that common ground. I don't remember when. I need to look back in our even recent history when we stopped trying to look for that compromise. Because there was a point where we stopped trying. Going across the aisle was something that was much more difficult to do. We'll talk about it another day, but even the veterans bill, the healthcare bill, 84 senators voted for it the first time. Essentially the same bill, no major changes. And now you've got senators who voted for it the first time saying that even the first version was bad. And now veterans are having to do sit-ins in the halls of Congress to try to get treatment for cancers that they received as a result of their service in our country. I said it before, I'll keep saying it. Even when we have consensus, we can't necessarily get things done. So the idea of a third party to me is appealing because I'd like to need a third voice for everything. I'd like to stop pitting one side against the other. I'd like to stop going to the polls and it really being what this group thinks or what that group thinks, as if they represent everybody. They don't. There are moderates on both sides. Again, we'll get to the things that people are concerned about maybe tomorrow, but today let's talk about why they think this whole thing is a good idea. Now, I'll also start with how this thing they had me at this. Not left, not right, forward. Sold. I'm in. I'll take it. I know there's a bunch of details that have to be worked out. There's a bunch of questions that need to be answered. The motivations, the impact, all of those things have to be looked into before you get me. But I can tell you this. I had adrenaline flowing all weekend at the idea of not left, not right, forward. That was an exciting proposition to me. I'm into politics. It's interesting to me. It's appealing to me to understand culturally where we go. I have kids. I want grandkids. Fellas, did you hear that? I want grandkids. Not yet. 10, 15 years is good for me and your mother. But what's it going to look like for my grandkids? And if it ended up being not left, not right, forward, I'm all aboard. Here's what they have to say. Make that a little bigger for you. Welcome to the Forward Party. Forward Party is fighting for the American people with practical, common sense solutions. While other political parties look to divide America into different camps, the Forward Party aims to bring them together. Sounds good. I know it's not going to be that simple, but it sounds good. Join us on the most critical mission of our era, building the foundation for a representative and stable democracy. And then they repeat it. They keep getting me. Not left, not right, forward. I do enjoy that people on the left and right are clamoring. Don't take power from us. No. We don't want anything to mess with us getting everything we want. That too brings me joy. It really brings me joy. It brings me joy that people are fearful that this could impact what they want. That's the point. That's the purpose. Now they're already starting to dig in. Andrew Chang, what does he really want? Christine Todd Whitman, what does she really want? What are the people going for with this third party? And don't worry, we're going to get all sorts of opinion. We're going to get all sorts of speculation. I hope that what they want becomes less important than the people who support this and the voices that stand tall. And there has to be divide. I mean, ultimately, people don't always agree, but can they find consensus that will draw people from both sides to that middle to actually get things done? That has some exciting appeal. More about what they say. More about what they say is important. They've got how they're different. And that's important to me because I'm curious who they are and where this thing is going and how it's going to impact my children and impact my family. And that, that all matters to me. So from them, from the Forward Party, how we're different. We're not building a copy of the current parties, which are dragging our country backwards. I agree. We're moving American politics forward with a party focused on innovative, collaborative, and common sense solutions that work for the majority of Americans. I'm in. Sounds good. Let's go. One of their first listed items. A diverse thinking isn't just welcome, it's required. The Forward Party will welcome new ideas and fearless conversations around the issues of the day. We won't silence debate or refuse to adapt to the modern world. Listen, I could say the Divided States of America show is about diverse thinking. It's not about how parties have worked up to this point. But I could read that last statement again. The Forward Party or the Divided States of America show will welcome new ideas and fearless conversation around the issues of the day. We won't silence debate or refuse to adapt to the modern world. I'm in. It's as if they were trying to write the ideal program for me. There are details. I know. I'm not. I won't lose sight. I'm not hook, line, and sinker. I just like the idea enough to be excited. Next up, bottom up, not top down. The Forward Party will empower leaders to find solutions that work in their communities. We won't dictate a rigid top-down policy platform and expect it to work for all Americans. Are you saying that if different Americans have different opinions and issues or subject matter or concerns in different regions of the country are going to reflect those regions of the country and the issues they're facing and not just what the two parties think and their blanket application of all of that to all 50 states? Okay, let's go. Let's go. I'm in. I like it. I know I'll keep qualifying it. There are details we need to work out. But in principle, they're starting from a better place than either party, having been a part, associated with, concerned about, cared about, dug into, wanted to understand both the left and the right. I like this middle version already better. Next up, no purity test. The Forward Party will create a political home for everyone willing to set aside the partisan extremes and find practical ways to make this country better. We won't be checking IDs to see if the people are Democrats, Republicans, or independents. Oh man, this is starting to get romantic. I feel like there should be some candlelight there, maybe some romantic music. I want to turn these lights down. I want to make a more intimate moment. Can I say that again? No purity test, no litmus test. The Forward Party will create a political home for everyone willing to set aside the partisan extremes and find practical ways to make this country better. We won't be checking IDs to see if you are a Democrat, Republican, or independent. Moderates from all sides are welcome. People who don't believe the same things have a place, and you won't be insulted like a dog. You won't be called a moron. Can you imagine respectful, thoughtful discussion? It's the entire point of this program. There's a party that is trying to address the divided states of America. I know you know why I'm so excited. Again, it's romantic at the moment. I feel the romance in the air. Some of you, again, you're clinging to power. Oh, this is just going to mess things up for me and my party, what I want. Let go of that power. It isn't serving America's best interest. And while you continue to fight to get more of your interest, that's admirable for both sides. Every time you fail and don't make any progress, and we stand still and we just argue and fight more, America's not better. You didn't get what you wanted, and we appear to hate each other over just about anything. We're not better on the road we're on currently. Which goes to their next point. More listening, less talking. The Forward Party will ask you what we can do for your community. A little John F. Kennedy play. We will not ask what your community can do for us. All right, it's been used. But boy, if it was true. Boy, if it was true. If it were about communities and not parties, oh, that would be awesome. If it were about solving real problems, making real progress for real people, that would be great. Now, you heard Andrew Chang said a universal income. All right, we know we're already getting to the controversial side. How does it work? What does it cost? How much do I have to pay? If someone said to me that in my taxes, I got to pay $45 to get universal income, that's a different discussion. We're going to raise your taxes and you're never going to understand and get any accountability from the government. And the money's going to be wasted and we're going to be paying $500 for screwdrivers and toilet lids. Okay, we're not getting anywhere. But because the left and right just argue and they just throw out rhetoric, people have a hard time believing it. When they don't believe it, they go to their corner, they go to their people, they go to their side. They go to people who they think look and sound like them, and they take the news and the rhetoric, and it's just doled out to make themselves feel good and feel important and tell me how bad the other side is. So the actual discussion about why are we paying $500 for a screwdriver doesn't get had. And then when people say raise taxes, and half of the people say, no, I'm not paying for screwdrivers that cost $500. And the other side says, well, you're also not paying for a homeless vet. What do we do? It'd be nice if somebody made that the focus. If somebody were in the middle trying to solve actual problems as opposed to just fight the other side. It sounds like the Forward Party is thinking about going in that direction. That has great appeal to me personally. Don't know what the lack of appeal would be to other people, although don't get me wrong, we're starting to hear it. Next up on their list, work together, not against. The Forward Party will strive for collaborative solutions, make sure they work, and try something else if they don't. We won't ignore problems so that we can use them to drive wedges between Americans. I got to read that again. Oh boy. We won't ignore problems so that we can use them to drive wedges between Americans. That is the essence of the Democratic Party. That is the essence of the Republican Party. And while both are actually trying to do good, they spend a lot of time trying to do bad to each other. A lot of time. A lot of words. Nothing gets done when opposing views are treated like enemy positions. I need a violin soundtrack just for the calm that I feel, the peace that is taking over. If we could actually do it, if this party can actually get somewhere. And the last one, and you'd think it would sometimes appeal to the right because the word means something to those of us who believe. I hope it means something to all people who believe. And while I don't want my religion to drive the country, grace and tolerance. We've become so intolerant. January 6th, intolerance. Riots where hardworking business owners' buildings are burned down. Intolerance. Both wrong. Most Americans agree. We can't seem to get that done in an investigation. We can't seem to hedge problems, cut them off before they happen in cities that end up burning. We say we agree, but our political party, our structures, our voting systems, they don't allow us to get things done. So again, the idea of a third party sounds appealing. The words they're using sound very appealing. We'll see where this thing goes. But the last thing they say here is grace and tolerance. The Forward Party will approach each other with grace and tolerance, finding ways to pick people back up. I'll say it again, pick people back up rather than knock them down. We won't cancel people. We won't cancel people. We won't cancel people or cast them out of the party for not falling in line. Oh, man, I'm not going to cry, but I want to. I'm not going to cry. I'm not. I won't. I refuse. I refuse. But is this not a language you want to hear? Is this not something that would be appealing to you? Or are you so entrenched in Trump or so entrenched in the progressive wing of the Democratic Party and the government solving all problems? Are you so entrenched in entitlement that you feel like any need you have that you can't meet, the government should meet it for you? Are you so entrenched that you get to decide what happens with a woman's body? Are you so entrenched that you are on the extremes? Or do you have some views that are more moderate? Do you have some willingness to have discussions? Are you really at the point in life where you think you know what's best for everyone and expect that to happen and really won't accept anything less? If you're not, and I believe most Americans are not, if you're not, maybe there's some legs underneath this party. It's going to have to work itself out. The details, the fights, the arguments, the mistrust. I mean, all of the details are going to have to work themselves out. Today, I'm not going to explore all of the debate. There's too much. I'm not going to explore all the debate, but I'm going to tell you what some of the people for it are saying, because my goal today is to introduce it to you. I'm introducing it to you much like I wanted to introduce the Divided States of America show, because right now, in principle, we're standing for the exact same thing. That's why it's appealing to me. If you want me to be a staunch liberal Democrat and I'm not performing for you, sorry, I don't intend to. I want to hear from you. I want to know what you think, but I also want to hear from the opposing view. And then I want to hear from somebody that's working hard to get both of you to go in the same direction. I'd like that to be me, but I'll take people from a party or from a movement or just moderate Americans out there, moderate independents out there, who just think it's ridiculous how we try to get things done and they realize we're not getting anything done. I'll take it. Sign me up. I'll take it. Here's some of the reaction we're seeing. And I know that's pretty small. You probably can't see it. Probably doesn't help, but I'll read some of them because Americans are definitely reacting. Definitely. All right. First one, top left. 62% of Americans want something new. We're here to build it. It's time to move forward together. Hashtag forward together. 62% of Americans want something new. We're here to build it. It's time to move forward together. Oh, it'd be great if Democrats and Republicans who are interested in solutions work together to do it. Next up, in a two-party system, people get left behind. Wouldn't it be great if candidates in your town and state, and even in Congress, could speak up for their communities instead of for party leadership? Oh, man. Pictures of courage. I keep using Lynn Cheney. I've seen clip after clip after clip of Republicans in Wyoming who hate her. And they're honest. She doesn't support Trump. She doesn't have his back. She doesn't have our back because we support Trump and she doesn't. I prefer a politician have principles. I prefer a politician call right, right, and wrong, wrong. And when they're not sure whether it's right or wrong, they are willing to investigate and find out. The politics of the fact that the Republican Party is not part of the January 6th Select Committee hearings is just politics. They could be there if they wanted to. They just couldn't the Democrats just didn't allow them to put people on the panel that are likely to be investigated. We don't put people on trial in the jury. Doesn't seem crazy. I think moderates can agree. There are other qualified Republicans who could have sat up there and done a great job cross-examining the witnesses that were there. It's unfortunate that we're not getting it. It's unfortunate that it does give it a bad taste in that regard, but it's not like they didn't have an opportunity. Kevin McCarthy decided not to. Even Trump was pissed. Nobody's there to defend us. Nobody's there to speak for us. Well, that was a choice. But an investigation should still go on, and it should be fact-based. And when they find facts, they should be considered. And the number of people in America not even willing to consider them because where they're coming from is just a symbol of the two-party system. So a third party sounds great to me. I think a third party would have been very interested in what was going on, regardless of which side it happened to. And I think moderate Republicans want to know what happened and want to know if there were crimes committed and want people to be held accountable for it. I think there are more Americans who want fairness, who want right from wrong, who want to build consensus on those things and not just lay back and rely on the party, even if you have your own individual thoughts, in order to maintain some segment of power and influence in the world. They just go with one or the other. I'd love to see that stop. Next up, among independents, 69% said they would like to see more than two options on the ballot. And a staggering 79% of younger voters age 18 to 35 want to see a third party or multiple parties. I hope you get what you want. I really do. It'd be nice if it were clean, if it were what it says it wants to be. We really won't know until the party continues to grow and whether or not it gets a foothold and puts people in office, and more importantly, how they handle some of those divisive issues, and if people drop off because they don't get what they want, or what the compromises look like. I mean, on abortion, it's kind of a tough one. You know, it'll be curious to see what the people's position is on those things. We're going to find out in Kansas today. Kansas is holding primaries, but they're also voting on the question of whether the state constitution should essentially outlaw it. They're voting today. Kansas is primarily Republican. I think it's some 60% Republicans, but on this issue, they think the vote is going to be much closer. It's like 46% to 42% at the moment. 46 in favor of banning abortion, 42 against, and it doesn't reflect the nature of the parties, the registered voters in the state, which again is an example of the fact that there are Republicans who are more moderate, and there are states like California where there are moderate Democrats who don't like anything that they feel is too extreme, that would love to have a different voice, don't want to give up power to Republicans, but don't want the Democratic power unchecked. There's a place for this, folks. My favorite, though, we do not require anyone to pass an ideological purity litmus test at the Forward Party. You mean I can come in and be who I am and still expect to be able to make progress? You mean I can be me and I don't have to give up what I believe in, my identity and my core principles, and I still may be in position to have an influence on a positive change in America? Me? I'm trying to do it through a show, but could you imagine if there were a whole party who were trying to do the same thing? And then again, I don't want to cover it all today, but I'll just give you one of the comments. For those worrying that the Forward Party will steal votes from the Dems, and it's therefore a threat to democracy, I guess I disagree with the notion that a one-party state represents the safeguarding of democracy that they're implying. The Democrats aren't the only people who protect democracy. There are Republicans who'd like to do it, minus Trump and the big lie. But there are. How do they get anything done right now without being cast out of their party? How do they get anything done without the fear, and I don't know why you fear him, but out of the fear of Trump coming down on you and the voters turning on you? Do you want those voters, the ones who don't care what he does wrong, to vote for you anyway? And if the answer is yes, you're going to be a bad politician. You're not going to serve the interest of Americans. You're going to serve the interest of your voters. And there's a difference between the two. America is made up of all sorts of people, colors, races, ethnicities, belief systems, identities. You can name all of the differences, all of the diversity in America. But when you only go in to maintain your power, you couldn't possibly be representing Americans. There's so little representation of all Americans that we're divided, that there's a need for a show like this that takes on divisive issues. And every issue becomes divisive because of the divide, because our leaders are literally charting the course in opposite directions and throwing bombs left and right. That's what we have, folks. That's where we're at. If you have any interest in change, hopefully you'll keep watching this show, because that's the point. If you have interest in change from a political perspective, maybe the Forward Party is for you. I hope it ends up being for me. I hope it does. I'm optimistic. There's so much that needs to be worked out. There's time is going to heal the wounds and the questions and the concerns. Is my primary fear, but man, Chang was a Democrat. Is he going to hurt the Democratic Party? It's not my fear. Democratic Party isn't getting all that they want. They're not winning the battle. They're not solving the problems. They are one side of the problem to me. And while I understand their intentions, and I understand the intentions of many Republicans, both are failing to address the needs of Americans by virtue of the fact that they're dividing us. And if that's what they think the goal and the purpose of their parties is, good doesn't come from that. Division does. As long as there's a divide, the Divided States of America show will be there. We will take on these issues. We look to have respectful, thoughtful conversations. We'd like to have more of them with you. As time goes on, we'll grow the show, add guests, and add more of your voices and your opinion. That is the desired output, the desired effect of this. And it much aligns with what the Forward Party is talking about. So I'll be talking about the Forward Party quite a bit. The left and right do a great job of talking about themselves. They've commandeered some networks, they've commandeered some radio, they've commandeered some podcasts. They've done a good job of taking over the messages that we get and only speaking to people that they think are going to keep them in power. I want to speak in the middle, to the people in the middle, to the people who have to go to work, have to think about more things than what did politics do today. I want to think about the practical impact on people. I want to do that here weekdays at noon, 3 p.m. Pacific on the Divided States of America show. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, and on YouTube. My preferred choice, at least early on, is to get you folks on YouTube, get you to subscribe, unlock some benefits for me that allow me to grow this show. I'm clear on my goals. And I've been underestimated before, and we've outperformed. We've shown people that where there is true sincerity and a desire to make some other things happen, we're going to work till we get there. I'm going to work till we get there. And I appreciate you being here for that ride. That's it for today. I can't thank you enough for tuning in. We'll be back tomorrow with more. Hopefully you join us then.
Thanks for watching the Divided States of America show. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider subscribing to the channel and share this video with your family and friends.